What literary device is used in the last two stanzas of the poem, and how does it affect the plot? A. They utilize repetition to show the unending love between the highwayman and Bess. B. The stanzas show how Tim the ostler also loves Bess. C. They show the arrival of King George's men. Place the details in chronological order to create a summary of the highwayman. A. Tim the ostler eavesdrops on the highwayman and Bess. B. The highwayman rides up to the old inn and professes his love to Bess. C. The highwayman returns and Bess dies to save him. D. King George's men arrive at the inn and tie up Bess. E. The highwayman discovers that Bess is dead and is killed by King George's men. F. The highwayman gallops away to the west. What does the author mean by the phrase, "There was death at every window"? It is a metaphor meaning that King George's men are waiting for the highwayman at the windows. It is a simile meaning that King George's men are waiting for the highwayman at the windows. It is a simile meaning that the highwayman will get caught robbing a carriage. In stanza 1, line 1, it says, "The wind was a torrent of darkness among the gusty trees." What does this reveal about the setting's mood? A. It is cheerful and bright. B. It is thoughtful and peaceful. D. It is gloomy and frightening. Based on context clues, what does the word Harry mean in the following stanza? "One kiss, my bonny sweetheart, I'm after a prize tonight, but I shall be back with the yellow gold before morning light. Yet if I be press me sharply and harry me through the day, they look for me by moonlight, watch for me by moonlight, I come to thee by moonlight, though hell should bar the way." A. He will return at night. B. To help the highwayman. C. To annoy the highwayman. What does the highwayman promise Bess? A. He promises to return to her. B. He promises to kill King George's men. He promises to never return. He promises to make her rich. Choose two of the following stanzas that best support your answer to number 6. A. Stanza 15. B. Stanza 9. C. Stanza 7. E. Stanza 5. It is implied in the poem that Tim told the redcoats of the highwayman's love for Bess. What is Tim's motive or reason for betraying Bess? A. Tim wants the highwayman's riches. B. Tim and the highwayman had an argument. D. Tim is in love with Bess and jealous of the highwayman. Which of the following lines best supports your answer to number 8? A. Stanza 4. But he loved the landlord's daughter. B. Stanza 5. But I shall be back with the yellow gold before the morning light. Stanza 4. Tim, the ostler, listened. His face was white and peaked. Based on the description of the following stanza, what can you infer about the character of Tim the ostler? In the dark old inn yard, a stable wicked creek, where Tim the ostler listened. His face was white and peaked. His eyes were hollows of madness, his hair like moldy hay. But he loved the landlord's daughter, the landlord's red-lipped daughter. Dumb as a dog he listened, and he heard the robber say. A. Tim creates a loving environment for Bess and the highwayman's relationship. C. Tim is too busy taking care of the horses to care about what the highwayman says. D. Tim creates conflict for Bess and the highwayman and has a negative effect on the plot. In stanza 9, it says, "Now keep good watch," and they kissed her. What does this action reveal about the redcoats? A. The redcoats wanted the landlord's money and food. The redcoats wanted the landlord to watch for the highwayman. Or D. The redcoats know that Bess loves the highwayman and are mocking her for it. Which of the following lines prove that the redcoats are waiting to kill the highwayman? A redcoat troop came in marching, marching, marching. King George's men came in marching up to the old inn door. They said no word to the landlord, they drank his ale instead, but they gagged his daughter and bound her to the foot of her narrow bed. Two of them knelt at the casement with muskets at their side. There was death at every window and hell on one dark window, for Bess could see through her casement the road that he would ride. In stanza 15 says, "Back he spurred like a madman, shouting a curse to the sky." How does this simile action contribute to the plot development? This action shows the highwayman's return as a ghost. This action shows how the highwayman is riding into sure death. This action shows the highwayman coming to rescue Bess. Based on his description, what inference can you make about the highwayman in the following stanza? He'd a French cocked hat on his forehead, a bunch of lace at his chin, a coat of claret velvet, and breeches of doeskin. They fitted with never a wrinkle, his boots were up to his thigh, and he rode with a jewel twinkle, his pistol butts a twinkle, his rapier hilt a twinkle, under the jeweled sky. A. The highwayman doesn't care about his appearance. B. The highwayman is destitute and continues to rob to survive. C. The highwayman is well dressed and likable. The color red is repeated and emphasized throughout the poem. What does this color symbolize and foreshadow? Use two of the following answers. A. It symbolizes the love Bess feels for the redcoats for saving her and upholding the law. B. It symbolizes the love and passion between Bess and the highwayman. C. It symbolizes the hatred that Bess feels for the highwayman for leaving her to rob carriages. E. It symbolizes the violent tone of the poem and the death for the two main characters. Read the following stanza from the poem. Talot, had they heard it? The horse's hoofs ringing clear. Talot, in the distance, were the death that they did not hear. Down the ribbon of moonlight, over the brow of the hill, the highwayman came riding. The redcoats looking to the priming. He stood up, straight and still. The poet uses a strong rhythm and automatopoeia to capture the beat of the A. Pounding rain. B. The redcoats marching. D. Horses' hoofs. What is the purpose of the following line in the poem? They stretched and strained in the darkness, and the hours crawled by like years. A. It is a metaphor comparing Bess's love for the highwayman to the time it showed how deep her love was. It is a metaphor comparing hours and years to show the speed of time as Bess was waiting for the highwayman to return. It is a hyperbole to exaggerate the speed of time as Bess was waiting for the highwayman to return. How does Bess warn the highwayman of the trap set by the redcoats? A. She yells out his name. B. She tells the innkeeper. C. She shoots herself. Which of the following details does the author include to demonstrate how the highwayman feels when he hears Bess has died? A. Not till the dawn he heard it. B. Back he spurred like a madman, shouting a curse to the sky. C. He laid in his blood on the highway with a bunch of lace at his throat. How does the following piece of evidence contribute to the plot of the poem? She writhed her hands till her fingers were wet with the sweat or blood. A. It shows the desperation of the redcoats wanting to capture the highwayman. B. It shows the landlord's desire for the redcoats to leave his inn. C. It shows his best desperation to warn the highwayman of the trap at the inn. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest is the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could have bashed the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard in the chilliest land and on the strangest sea, and yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. The poet uses the word gale and storm as metaphors. What might these words represent? A. Pleasant times. B. Times of success and growth. C. Times of bad weather. D. Hard or painful times. Hope is important and helpful in times of pain, sorrow, or difficulty. Which lines from the poem best supports this statement? That could have bashed the little bird that kept so many warm. B. Hope is the thing with feathers that perch in the soul. C. Yet never in extremity it asks a crumb of me. D. And sings the tune without words and never stops at all. The poet says that hope sings the tune without words. Why might the poet have written that the tune has no words? To point out that it is very difficult for people to express whether they feel hopeful or not. B. To indicate that people who are always hopeful are also often forgetful. To suggest that people are usually unable to understand the feeling of hope. What is the theme of the poem? Hope can survive even the toughest times. B. Hope is able to keep people warm even in the coldest, stormiest lands. Hope is a little bird that sings during the storm. What is the overall mood of the poem? Despairing and negative, somber and sorrowful, inquisitive and playful.